So once the drywall was in and painted, it was time to get the bifold and the French door installed. And at this point, there'd be less chance of them getting damaged. And so you can see the bifold installed at this point. We've used shims to get it centered in the opening. And of course, it's important to get it plumb and level. And we spent a lot of time trying to figure out exactly where in the opening, how far inset we wanted it to be. And also the flashing detail at the bottom to make sure that nothing came in underneath. You can see the outside flashing here, and that gap we filled with spray foam. And you can see the bottom flashing detail there. So next up was the siding, and first of all I had to get the frames to come back and put on the house wrap. For some reason they didn't want to do this after they'd framed, but they came back and put this on, and then we were ready for siding. So you can see the Hardie Shingle siding being delivered there, and the house wrap is on. Put some flashing on there as well, and these guys are getting ready to get started. So we decided to go with a Hardie Shingle siding. It's going to match the main house with a real cedar shingle, but it's also going to be fire resistant. It's going to be very durable, but it's going to give that nice look. And so you can see these guys getting started with the fascia board and the window trim. And that is another design decision that you have to make. What kind of window trim do you want? What kind of window stall do you want if you want a window stall? So that is an important thing. I had to quickly make a decision there, and ultimately I wanted to match the main house, which made it a bit easier. So they are using cedar for the trim there. Unfortunately at least there don't seem to be good Hardie products for that, not in the right sort of width of material that we wanted. So we ended up going with cedar. And then the Hardie Shingle siding. You know, we're in California, so we don't see too much crazy weather that's gonna really degrade this over time. Should be fine. So they've got the first course of the Hardie Shingle siding on there, and they're going to start building up from there. So you can see getting started now. Can see more of the shingles going on. They actually ran out of shingles. Of course, that's always one of the challenges in ordering material, making sure you order enough, but you don't order too much that you are left with a load of returns or unused material. But you can see this stuff goes on pretty nicely. There's a certain way in which you're supposed to put it on, so it's staggered so the joins don't line up. And it looks kind of random. So these guys did a good job with that. It's a little bit tricky to cut. You know, it's a fibrous cement material, so it creates a lot of dust. But these guys knew how to work with it. So you can see going in there, you can see they've actually installed a soffit for me with vents to each of those soffit bays. And that just really rounded out the look. I could have got on a Hardie material, but we ended up going with plywood. And I got some vents off Amazon, those black vents you can see in each of the bays. So they're pretty close to finishing here. Yeah, just caulking some of the joints and the edges. And there it is, the finished result. Before painting, you can see there's a couple of shingles missing, but this is actually the finished result here, where they've caulked the edges. You can see they've got the penetration, that's for the doorbell. They've got some blocking for the outdoor lights. They have trimmed out the bifold there pretty nicely. They had to put a bit of extra trim in there to close out that gap. And yeah, this is pretty close to being ready for paint. And these shingles come pre-primed, so they are ready to accept paint.
Morning. Morning.
And here we are with the paint. So this is a Benjamin Moore Regal Select, I think, Iron Mountain. So we're spraying it on and we're back rolling, which is really best practice to get good adhesion of the paint to the substrate. And of course we've covered the windows and doors to avoid getting any overspray. And we'll be coming back for a second coat. You know, one thing with these shingles is there's a lot of nooks and crevices you have to make sure your paint is going in. So you kind of have to angle your sprayer multiple different directions to make sure you get good coverage. And here you can see we've also painted the trim white, and it's really coming together, beginning to look really good. Just adding some final touches. So around the same time, we were also trying to finalize our sewer lateral connection from the ADU to our main sewer line for the house. And you can see the main sewer line down there that's covered in a bit of mud that wraps around the back of the house. The superficial white line is actually from the downspout, the two downspouts actually. And so that runs down the back of the house to the sump pump. The ADU sewer line is coming from the ADU there to about where that stake is. So the plumbers are going to work on getting these two connected. One thing that surprised me during this process was I had to get a separate permit from Oakland Public Works to do this sewer line connection. That permit was about $1,800 and included an inspection from Oakland Public Works. And you'll see later on in the series, I also have to get an East Bay Mud sewer lateral certification. So here you can see the plumbers have connected up the sewer line and added a clean out there. And Oakland Public Works also wanted us to change the type of pipe that we were using from the ADU from a ABS pipe to an SDR40 pipe. So this ended up being a lot more work than anticipated, but we got there in the end. So I'm now skipping forward to where the plumber is setting up for the Oakland Public Works inspection, where he is setting up the lateral to be pressurized to show that it holds the pressure and doesn't have any leaks. So that's the balloon, right?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I already have one here.
Okay.
And this is
Okay.
other size.
Nice. How do you get it in up this one?
I can see the pipe there, so.
Okay, yeah. So we eventually got there with the inspection. The inspector actually wanted us to install a backflow valve as well, so they had to come back a second time. You can see the ABS pipe coming out of the ADU there. Of course it's not pressurized right now, but we did eventually pass.